Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 366 Days of Hope. My name is Pearl, and I'm here to share our next topic, which is 4 marriage myths that I didn't realize until I was married. So I think the first one is that we think that every single day is going to be an amazing marriage day. And we're kind of in this honeymoon stage for like ever. That is an absolute myth. I think that I was a very naive child, but also I think that a lot of the movies that I saw played into it, like that whole concept of, and they lived happily ever after. Not to say that you don't live as happy as you can be, don't get me wrong, like you can definitely develop that, but there are a lot of trials and challenges in marriage that are very different when you're dating that I feel like compound when you're actually married. And so that was a definite marriage myth that I personally experienced. Every day is not going to be like sunshine and butterflies. Okay, so the second marriage myth is that I think this more applies to men than I think women, maybe for some women, but not all. But that especially when it comes to the intimate part of your relationship, like it's going to always happen all the time, it's always going to be spontaneous. No, there will be times where you are just not in the mood, and there will be times where they're not going to be in the mood and they just don't have the energy. They've had a very long day. That is just a norm in a marriage. And there are times where, like the Bible says, like you have to give time to separate and time to come together, but you are not supposed to use it as a weapon and kind of using it against the other person and keeping yourself away from them where eventually they will urinate in someone else. Like that would be bad. So make sure that you have that intimate part of your relationship very healthy, but there will be times where you will not be able to do it for whatever circumstance and situation. So that is a reality. I think many of us who probably had a very naive perspective about that because of maybe the medias we had watched or the ideas that came from books or whatnot, those are things that may have affected our perception, and the reality of that is not always the case. You are not going to always have access to that every single time and when you want. Okay, and the third naive, I would say, myth would be that your roles are always going to be black and white. That to me was something in my mind that I like played in my head, thinking like, I had this role and they had this role, and it was always going to be that. It's a give and take, guys, in a marriage. It's a give and take. It's going to be constantly flowing of whatever's happening in your day. And as a personal trainer, because my schedule is crazy sometimes, where there are days where I have a lot of clients and then there are days where I don't have that many clients. There are times where, especially during seasons, because everybody's traveling, my schedule might be a little bit lighter, and so I'll have more time to do a lot of the domestic work, or I have more time to run errands than my husband, so these kind of things have to be played as they come. I think that having this perspective in your mind, like, oh, certain work is specifically for this gender or for this individual, whether male, female, husband, wife, whatever, like that is not always the case. Like, who cooks all the time? It is not always me. Majority of it is me, yes, but it is not always me. Like if I can't do it, my husband will step in. If there's like issues with our vehicle, generally is it my husband who takes it in? No, it's generally me because I have more time. If my husband's able to take it in, he'll do it. Who takes out the trash? Generally my husband. But if we if he needs assistance, or he says, hey babe, I can't take out the trash, I've got other things going on, could you take it out? Like, there is that give and take that needs to happen with the different roles that we play. And I think it's important. But if you have a set thing where, like, my husband has a set thing for me that he's like, no, this is predominantly my job, like, I don't ever want to see you do it. He has that for me for one thing. And I'm perfectly fine in letting him take it, okay? I've never had to do this one thing. Maybe I'll share another time. But that's just his thing. He feels like it's his job, and I don't take that away from him. And I definitely remind him weekly to make sure it gets done, so that way it's always, completed. But nonetheless, it's, in terms of roles, I think it's just important that you discuss it, or you will learn to both adapt to it. So that would be my third one. The fourth myth I think that comes in relationships is that it would be easy, like that love is enough, or that happiness is enough. I think that I came into marriage thinking that loving someone was going to be enough, and not realizing that there's a lot of sacrifice that is in marriage. And I think that fits perfectly with the biblical narrative of, when you look at your own relationship with God, like it has your part in it. Is the salvation free? Yes. But do you have to participate daily in dying to self? Absolutely. You can't just be like, okay, I believe and I'm good, I don't have to do anything. No, because faith without works is dead, right? So we have to, it's kind of like sitting here and saying, okay, well, I married you, that's good enough, I don't need to do anything else. I don't know how many marriages are going to end up surviving with that mentality. That's not going to be good enough. There's going to be constantly dying to self, a sacrifice that's given in your marriage, where you bend over backwards for each other, you compromise for each other, you talk through difficulties with each other when they come up and arise. There is a submission of and to each other. There's a moment where you're going to have to apologize and humble yourself before the other person if you've hurt them accidentally or not. Being willing to acknowledge those things. So yes, that one definite myth that was busted for me, and that marriage is challenging in that sense, and in constantly having to sacrifice for the person. But when you love the person and when you want to see the best in them, the sacrifices are well worth it. And I think of amazing parents that I've seen who've done that for their kids. We just had the Olympics, and I happened to do a little research on Miss Biles and just and how she became a gymnast, and just the amount of sacrifice that her grandparents, her now parents, did for her was just incredible. And I think that when you love deeply, you sacrifice deeply. And I think of that from the Christian narrative of God's love towards us, that he sacrificed much because he deeply loved us and desired us to be with him. In the same sense, we sacrifice much because we want our spouse to want to be with us, and we're not trying to manipulate them into our relationship, but we want them to want to be in this relationship. And so we give of ourselves to be able to maintain a harmonious relationship. And so I was just really blessed to, have a very understanding, loving husband who just, has helped me heal through a lot of the things that I've gone through. And in that process has enabled me to be able to give as much back to him as well. And just to have that reciprocation, I think, is really important. And that's really helped save our marriage on multiple occasions where I feel like I, had difficulty in that area. But nonetheless, that might be another topic. However, I just wanted to encourage you guys, if you are in the dating and are very serious for marriage, to make sure you think about just looking at marriage as a day-to-day, and it's not scary, you know. And it breaks my heart when I hear people say things like marriage is like you're chained down or something. It just really makes me sad, because marriage isn't like that. There's so much freedom in marriage if you're with the right person and you both are giving each other the proper autonomy. And when you deeply love each other, there's like an amount of trust and respect that's there, that you don't have to be, you know, feeling as if it is a cage for you. But marriage is not that, and we have a way of being able to change that narrative, if both parties are willing, and you know, willing to do it, and both parties are willing to cooperate with each other. It does make marriage a beautiful thing. So with that said, guys, may you live, thrive, and be healthy, and stay strong in your relationships. Bye.